All right. Once again, welcome to our Meal Solutions Monday class. I am Shayna, one of the dietitians. And for the month of June, our theme for this series is one that I love. Okay. It is all about al fresco dining. Okay. Charlotte, I believe, started us off last week for this series, but just a bit of review about what al fresco dining means is it essentially is just eating outdoors, okay? Whether that be a picnic with friends and family, or maybe you just have a few girlfriends over, or whatever it is. It's just that idea of eating outdoors, and it comes from the Italian words meaning in the fresh air. I myself love to eat outside. My household's a little divided on that. Some of us don't like it at all, feel like it's too hot, too many bugs. And then there's me who's like, let's just eat outside all the time. But I love this theme for this month. I think it lends well to some very fun recipes. And here's what we have on tap coming up. Okay, so today I'm going to be making a whipped cottage cheese with corn and tomatoes. And if you see that and you're like, oh, I don't like cottage cheese, don't worry. We'll discuss alternatives to that. Okay, don't tune me out today just because of that. Next week, Jenna will be with us for portobello mushroom tacos. And then Joni will be doing an avocado green goddess chicken salad. And then I'm going to finish up the month right before 4th of July with some mini lobster rolls with red, white, and blue chips. Okay. So lots of fun recipes, like I said, ahead that just lend well to being out in the fresh air and eating outdoors. When I think about this, I think about like being on the patio and it just being, that Italian vibe, like the meaning suggests. But this could also be camping or just a picnic blanket, which I'm also a big fan of. I will stop rambling about my love of eating outdoors, okay? But if it's not for you, don't worry. Of course, you can eat all of these things inside too. All right. And it's kind of not a great day here in central PA. It's been raining on and off. How about this weather, guys, all over the place? But here we are with the recipe that we're going to be focusing on today, this whipped cottage cheese with corn and tomatoes from our Savory Recipe Resource Center. It does earn 2 guiding stars, and the links are here in the presentation that we'll be sending in that follow-up email so you can access it either way, whether directly from the email, maybe you save this presentation so you have it for later too. Okay, so all of that is right there. But doesn't it look lovely? I think it looks lovely. I have seen this recipe on Savory for a while and I've been like, oh, I really want to make this for something. And here was the perfect opportunity. Okay. So let's chat about this recipe a bit before we get into making it. Very simple ingredients here. We're going to start off with some corn, of course, the star being that cottage cheese, a little bit of lemon, herbs, and olive oil, and topping it off with some cherry or grape tomatoes. Okay, so very fresh, right? Out in the fresh air with these fresh ingredients. Here are the directions if you prefer to look at it back this way. This will be in that presentation for you as well. Okay, now let's chat about the star of this recipe. Okay, that cottage cheese. I have already seen some questions about like, what about the sodium? Can I use the no salt added cottage cheese? We will chat all about that. But I wanted to show you guys this here first, okay? Because we get a lot of questions as dietitians of should I use full fat, low fat, no fat? And I just wanted to talk through all of those. There's really no wrong answer to that question. It kind of is just what are you looking for? What are your dietary needs and preferences? Okay. So we'll start with the full fat option, which is actually what I'm going to be using today. Um, in the full fat option, as you can see across the board, calorie wise, it's not that much higher, right? Only about 20 calories higher because it is full fat. Okay, it's a little higher in fat. Why would I suggest going the direction of full fat? Because sometimes those full fat products that are dairy items like cottage cheese or milk, they can help fill us up a little bit more. Okay, yes, protein is the big key to help filling us up, fiber as well, which we're not going to find in a lot of dairy products. But Also, fat can fill us up too. Of course, we want to try to get more good fats than bad fats. Um, but we're not too far off here with that, with this full fat cottage cheese. 3 grams of saturated fat versus 1 in the low fat option. If you have high cholesterol, that would be the time where I would say, maybe you would be better off going the low fat 1% direction because saturated fat is that biggest correlation with cholesterol numbers going up. Okay. Now, in saying that though, that's really only if you are eating cottage cheese every day, all day long, right? If this is just a nice little different meal that you're making, I would say go ahead and use the full fat if that's going to be a bit more flavorful and appealing to you. If not, I've already discussed that middle of the road option there can work well too. And then at the very end over here on the right, we have the fat-free cottage cheese. As you can see, the fat-free, same amount of calories. How is that possible if it's fat-free, but it's the same amount of calories as the low fat? And the reason that is because usually when things are fat-free, they're going to be adding some type of sugar to it. All right. Because fat is flavor. And when we take that away completely, they need to flavor it with something to make it taste good. So you'll see here, the one on the very end has 2 grams of added sugar, where all of the others do not. So once again, it's kind of just what are we looking for? If you have diabetes, maybe we don't want to do the fat free. Let's go the 1% or the full fat direction so we avoid those added sugars. If you're like, I really don't know, and you just want to play it safe, I would say go with the middle option there. Okay, it's going to kind of cover all of those bases. Now, the big thing that you'll see in all of these is the sodium content. Okay, salt is added to cottage cheese, once again, to make it taste good and also for preservation reasons. So 400 across the board and even 430, a little bit higher once again in that fat-free option. If sodium is a concern to you, maybe you have high blood pressure, things of that nature, then we do have our brand of no salt added cottage cheese. So this would definitely be a great direction to go in if you do have, like I said, the high blood pressure or need to be watching sodium for any reason. This is a great option. Okay. So that's my little spiel about cottage cheese. Now, I should have put a slide in about this. I didn't, but I'll just speak to it and say if you're like, no thanks, no way, I'm not doing cottage cheese, then I would say use ricotta. Okay, ricotta can definitely be a great option. This is a whipped cottage cheese recipe, so ricotta is almost going to give you that texture of whipped anyway. Still going to give you some good protein and whatnot. So you could definitely go that direction instead if you're not a big fan of cottage cheese. But if you've only tried cottage cheese in the capacity of like putting fruit on it for a snack or breakfast, I invite you to venture out just for this recipe to give it a go here. Okay. So I am going to switch gears here over to my ingredients and we are going to start whipping this together here. So over here, you should see my ingredients. Yes. Okay. Good, good. Um, let's look at everything that we have going on. Okay. Like I said, one of the toppers is going to be corn. We have some great fresh corn in our stores right now. Definitely, I would invite you to pick that up. We need 3 ears for today. Now, you could boil the corn as you usually would for corn on the cob. This recipe makes it even easier for you, though. What it is suggesting is taking a damp paper towel, which I have here, wrapping up the corn and putting this in the microwave for about 3 minutes, okay, which I already did because then I wanted to let it cool. What is the difference here? Number one, obviously a lot faster. Number two, it's going to make the corn a bit more al dente compared to boiling it. So it's going to give our dish today a bit of a crunch, which with the texture of the cottage cheese, a little crunch would be nice. Okay, so that is what I did here. I wrapped it up in that wet paper towel, put it in the microwave for 3 minutes, and here we are. It's been cooling. So let's go ahead and take that off the ear here and just move this off my plate. Now, you can do this a couple of different ways here. I'm not going to go on and on about corn, although I do love sweet corn. What I'm just going to do here is balance it on the end. If this is uneven, you can cut this off. Another great way to do this with corn is if you have a bundt cake pan. Okay, so the cake pan that has like the circular post in the middle, you can prop that up right on that post of the bundt pan and cut the corn that way, and it'll collect it all at the bottom. So if you are getting a bunch of our fresh sweet corn and maybe freezing it for chicken corn soup or whatever it might be, that can be a great way to do it because then it collects it there at the bottom. Today we're just, doing a couple pieces, but you can already see it's going everywhere here. But we'll just go around and cut our corn off of the cob. Now, if you're really big into sweet corn, you love some different ideas for it, soon our July classes will be posted. And in July for Meal Solutions, we are doing some no-cook recipes. So I'm going to be making a golden gazpacho that includes fresh sweet corn. So definitely come back for that one if you're interested in some different uses of corn. Now, I didn't do this with the last ear, but I'm going to show you a little something here about corn in a moment. I don't want to turn this into a produce spotlight class, but we've got to talk a little bit here about this idea. So I just cut all of that off, right? Now, that was with the sharp edge of my knife. With the dull edge of my knife here, I'm just going to kind of go down and brush this a little bit, okay? And what happens when you do that is you start to, what they say, it's called milking the corn, okay? That nice, yummy, sweet goodness that's inside of the corn, you can get some more out of that. If my knife wasn't white, you would be able to see it a bit more here. But that's just gonna add some nice sweetness to our corn mixture here. So definitely in something like that gazpacho that we're going to be making soon, I will be doing that again. But don't skip out on that milking of the corn step because it just adds a nice little natural sweetness to whatever you are doing. Okay, so we will finish up the corn here. And if you're someone who's like, I love the taste of sweet corn, but I don't like eating it off the cob, that's how it is in my family here too, okay? Very rarely do we actually eat it off the cob. Usually I cut it just like this, but it's just that good summer flavor, okay? And then you always get excited when you get these like nice big pieces like this too here, okay? Cool. Let's milk the corn here a little bit. Get some of that off. All right. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and set our corn to the side here for a moment and work with our cottage cheese. Don't mind the random bits of corn that flew all over the place here, okay? Now, as I said, this recipe is a whipped cottage cheese recipe. It's going to call for you to use a food processor to whip it up to a velvety smooth consistency. And you might say, well, I don't want to do that for a couple of reasons. Maybe you don't want to get the food processor out. Maybe you don't have a food processor. Or maybe you just like the texture of cottage cheese as it is. And so all of those reasons I say that is okay. Okay, so that's what we're actually going to do today. Just a moment here where here it is. I was like, where's my spatula? Okay, so what the recipe calls for is 3/4 of a cup of cottage cheese whipped up in the blender. I am just going to whip it up by hand, okay? If it's more than 3/4 of a cup, that is okay. It might be a little more. That's all right, okay? You could leave it just like this and go ahead and spread it out on your serving platter, but I am going to whip mine up a little bit. Is it going to get to the same consistency? No, right? It's not going to be as smooth if we would buzz this into the food processor. But whisking it is going to do is going to incorporate a little bit of air, okay? But before I do that, I'm going to zest a little bit of lemon in here. Okay, recipe calls for about 2 teaspoons. I say whatever you can managed to dust off. That's completely fine. Oh, I love the smell of lemon. Ooh, see, it's nice and pretty in there. Can you see that zest? All right. Just do a little more. This is going to add a nice brightness to our cottage cheese, a little bit of acidity. It's going to marry well with all of the other flavors. Okay. Got about a good chunk of that off there. If you don't like lemon, don't put it in, right? Okay, that is okay too. I'm also going to do just a bit of fresh pepper, okay, right in there as well. Now I'm going to whisk it up, okay? So like I said, it is going to incorporate a little bit of air. The texture is going to be fairly the same unless you get in there and like really start mashing. But I don't know, sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to pull the food processor out. And that is okay. Or like I said, maybe you don't have one. So, all right, there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and put this on a plate. I had my plate out. Now, where did it go? Here we go. Okay. I had a bigger plate pulled out, but I think we're going to go with this smaller one here. Okay. And we're going to just spread our cottage cheese right on there. Okay. Good. Just going to fan that out a bit. Now, let's go ahead and start topping here. So, I am going to grab some olive oil. Okay. We're gonna do, you know what, guys? I'm gonna be crazy Sheena right now. I don't like how that looks. I'm gonna put it on my big plate. This is how I roll. It's okay. I just want that nice pop of color. Here we go. Okay. Moving on. There we go. If you didn't see me spread it out, now you see me spreading it out again. Ta-da! Lovely. Okay. Now for a little bit of olive oil, and we're gonna might do a dash of this again later, but I'm just gonna put a little bit of a base down. Now let's go ahead and take that fresh corn, and we're gonna jazz this up with some of that here. Beautiful. Nice. Okay. Now to that, we have some cherry tomatoes. I did already wash and rinse these, okay? Just kept them in so you can see the package there. I'm just gonna have a couple of these to put on top. Okay, so let me grab those. And when you have something like a cherry tomato or any tomato, very important that you have a knife that has a serrated edge, okay? Otherwise, your tomato is just gonna get all mushed up and funky and not cut right, and you're not gonna like it, okay? Serrated edge to cut your tomatoes. All right, popping them on there. Let me cut a few more. These, of course, just the red grape tomatoes, but if you are grape growing tomatoes, maybe you have some yellow or orange ones would be beautiful as well. I'm gonna do one more. Okay, good, good. Now, some basil. Let me show you guys this basil back here. So you can use basil from your garden if you have it. You can get our pre-cut basil in packages. This is something that I love. You usually find those right by the tomatoes. This is a fresh growing plant, okay? So they come in these nice plastic bags. The roots are going to be down here at the bottom. I'll take this off and show you in a minute. But I do want to just point out, this is a great PA preferred local item that we have in our stores, 100% grown and packed in Pennsylvania. It is greenhouse grown as well. So when you get this home, you're going to take it out of the package here, and you can see down below, right there are the actual live roots. Now, you could then plant this, all right? You can pot it inside. You could take it outside into a pot. You can plant it directly into the ground, whatever you would like to do. If you just want to keep it on your counter, you can keep it in this bag for a few days, but I would recommend taking it out, putting those roots in a shallow dish with a little bit of water, and you'll be good to go to have this inside for at least a week, okay? It smells beautiful. Lots of recipes on their website to incorporate this into different recipes. But basically, the vibe behind having something like this is to inspire you to create fresh flavors, okay, in any type of recipe that you are making. So you have this on your counter and you're like, oh, let's add fresh herbs for some flavor. So let me rinse these off quick. All right, dry them off here. And I'm just gonna tear. I'm gonna be a little gentle with basil. We could chop it, but I'm just gonna tear a bit. The recipe says you can use other herbs like mint or parsley, I believe would be what's in the picture. But anytime I think tomatoes, I'm like, oh, let's get some basil on there, right? All right, we're just gonna put this nice fresh piece in the middle like so. Okay, now I'm going to do this a little big. Let's move that around. We're going to do another little drizzle here of the olive oil. Okay. And then also some more of that fresh cracked black pepper. Go along here like that. Oh, it looks good, guys. Okay. Here it is. You're done. Okay. So simple, so easy. Once again, not your average cottage cheese and pineapple situation. You could eat this as is, or you could pair it with something. Okay. Maybe you're eating a salad. This is a nice bit of protein to go along with that salad if you didn't want to, put meat or something like that on that. You could directly put this on a salad, like a nice bed of lettuce, have this on top instead of plating it. Or something that I think is really fun that the recipe does suggest is pairing it with something like a tortilla chip. And this is like a dip. Okay. So instead of always doing salsa or hummus, here you have this whipped cottage cheese dip. You take your chip and just dip along with it. I would try it right now, but you guys know how I am. I have to take a picture of this first, so I don't want to be scooping in there yet. But it looks delicious. I'm so excited to try it. And I just think I'm gonna come back on camera here. I just think that this would be a lovely dish for if you are having, like I said, some friends over, you're eating outside in that fresh air. Like, I want to have people over for brunch just so I can make this and eat this with them. I'm really excited to dig in if you can't tell. So, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This was a very quick and easy recipe. As you can see, we're here before time. So, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the class. We're going to turn off the recording. And if you put any questions in the Q&A, I will go ahead and check those out now. So let me stop the recording.